Hello and welcome to the second Theatre of Music live lesson. Today's lesson is going to be all about melody. So let's see if I can make myself appear in the bottom there. There we go. So my name's Catherine and I'm Theatre of Music. And over the next few weeks, we're looking at all the things that come together to make a complete piece of music. And last week we looked at rhythm, and today's focus is going to be melody and pitch. So if you remember last week when we thought about rhythm, we were looking about things like note lengths, duration, how long the notes last, and the symbols that we used to actually indicate what note was what and how long they all lasted for. So we're going to be taking the next step today, and we're going to be adding to that knowledge by introducing melody. So let's see if we can get all this technology working. What is melody? So melody, well, let me demonstrate it. I'm going to play you something. Here's a melody that you probably know. It's let's see if you can recognize it before I tell you what it is. So here we go. Simple little melody, but one I think we probably all know is Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. So let's have a look at what the definition of a melody actually is. A melody is a mixture of high and low notes, and we definitely had that in Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. And melody is the tune. It's probably one of the most important elements in music. It's not necessarily the most important, because I think rhythm is the most important, because you can have rhythm without having melody. But melody is quite important because, you know, that's the bit that we all hum. That's the bit that we all know. That's the bit that we sing along with. That's the melody. So if we think about Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, and we think about the definition we've just got there about this mixture of high and low notes. We start here, and then we make quite a jump. It goes quite high. And then we take a little step, and then a little step down. And then the next little bit is all little steps, just down a step each time. And then we jump, steps, jump, steps down, and we go back to what we did before, and big jump, little step up, a step down, steps down. So you can hear that combination of the high and the low notes. So we're going to be looking at how we write these melodies down, how we write down these high and low notes. Now, when we're actually thinking about it, in music, we refer to this as pitch. Pitch is made up of high and low notes. So where we pitch something, are we pitching it high? Are we pitching it low? We use the word pitch, okay, to define it, because pitch covers all high and low notes, because ultimately it doesn't matter whether it's in the melody or it's in what we might call the accompaniment, the bit that goes with it. They've got high and low note pitches as well. If we put an accompaniment, I've got a keyboard next to me if you wonder why my arms keep flying across. We put an accompaniment to Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. You can hear there's low, goes lower. It's a combination of pitches, but it's at the bottom end. It's providing the accompaniment. It's not the melody, but that pitch is important too. So we're looking at all pitch really, but we're focusing on melody today. Okay. So these pitches are written down on something that we call a stave. It's just a word that means 5 lines that are horizontal underneath each other. And we put our symbols, our notes, on those 5 lines, and that indicates to us what note we're playing. It's like learning to, it's reading a language. It's reading a language. It's very much a bit, you know, when you first learn to read, you have to understand how all the words put together, how you put the words together, what the letters, the combination of letters mean, and that's basically what we're looking at, but in a musical way. So, in front of you, and I'm going to get out of the way, I hope. No, I'm not. Bear with me. Technology, still learning. Okay, there we go. So, in front of you, you have a diagram that is showing you something called treble clef notation. Now, you can see the 5 lines that I was talking about, and those 5 lines are where the notes are written. And we're calling this treble clef notation because right at the very beginning, there's a funny little symbol that's all swirly and curly, and we call that the treble clef. Now, the reason it's important that we think about this as treble clef notation is because you can have different types of notation depending on whether you're playing low down or whether you're playing high up. So if I'm using a keyboard, for example, I'm using both. So I would have 2 lots of staves, and one would have the treble clef to show me the high notes that I'm playing, in this case in the melody, and then I'd have another clef, the bass clef, that's telling me the notes that I'm playing with my left hand that are at the lower end of the keyboard. For the moment, you don't need to know anything about bass clef. That's the next step. That would be the next big step. We're just going to focus on treble clef notation, the higher notes. So you have this set of 5 lines, and you can have notes on the lines. And when we refer to them as being on the lines, it means the line cuts the note in half. And then we've got notes that are in the spaces. So they're in the gap between the 2 lines. Now, I like to use my hand to sort of demonstrate this. And actually, you can see a lovely picture of a hand on the left-hand side there. It's not my hand. That's actually my daughter's hand that we drew. And that hand is showing you, in effect, the 5 lines of the stave. So if you've got your thumb at the bottom, that's the bottom line. And your little finger at the top is the top line. So the 5 lines, the notes where the line itself cuts the note in half, are E, G, B, D, and F. So those are your 5 fingers, E, G, B, D, and F. And in between, if you open your hand out, you've got 4 spaces. And those are the notes in between the lines where you can see the whole note, it's not been chopped up or anything. And that is F-A-C-E, face. And an easy way of remembering it is face in the space. So we have face in the space, and then we have these notes that are on the line, E, G, B, D, and F. Now, I don't know about you, but trying to remember just going E, G, B, D, and F, I think that's quite difficult. Do you? I think that's quite difficult. And so what we do is we make up a way of remembering it. And so what we've got here is what you would call a mnemonic, which is using the notes, the letter names of the notes, and then what we're doing is we're putting a word to them. So E, G, B, D, and F. I like to remember things that maybe are a little bit gross because sometimes it's easier to remember things like that. So every green bogey deserves flicking. It's a nice, easy one to remember. E, G, B, D, F. Every green bogey deserves flicking. Or, if that's a bit too gross, the other one we like is every giraffe buys dental floss. You could make up any. I mean, you could have a go at making up your own mnemonic for the notes on the lines. There are so many that you could come up with. Another one we've got is every good ballerina deserves flowers. Yeah. The one that was used for a long, long time was every good boy deserves football. So a lot of adults my age and older remember that one. But there's all sorts of words, sentences that you can make up that will work for you, as long as you are using E, G, B, D, and F. So let's have a little bit of a test, maybe. So using your hand, I'm either going to say a line or I'm going to say a space. Now, obviously, the stave with the lines on is still up on the screen, so that's going to make it a little bit easier. But we're just sort of trying to get to remember these notes, so it's okay. It's okay. So using your hand, I'm going to say something like, third line. What's the note? You should have said a B. Every green bogey. What about the fourth space? So what's that fourth space? So the fourth space is an E. F, A, C, E. Now I'm giving you a little bit of help on those two, so let's see if you can do the next one by yourself. So how about the second line? I should have said G, green. Let's try another one. Let's do the fourth line. D, every green bogey deserves. And one more, let's do the second space. And that should have been an A, F, A, facing the space. Okay, so you can see that using your hand is a good way of working out what these notes of the treble clef are and helping you to read that notation and make it easier for you. And eventually you find that you don't need your hand. It just, boom, it's there. You can do it. It is just there automatically. But to begin with, it's like anything. You need a little bit of help, and your hand is there to help you. There is nothing wrong with working it out on your hand and taking it a step at a time until you start to recognize these notes instinctively. Okay? So, next what we're going to do is have a little go at working out reading the notes. Rather than just reading your hand, you're going to have a go at reading the notes themselves. So I'm going to put a word up that is made up using the notes of the treble clef. I'm not going to tell you what the answer is. All of this, by the way, is on the website under the live pages. There are worksheets taking you through all of this step by step, and using all of the resources that we've got on screen, so that you can do it again at your own pace, or go back and have a look at things, or you could be using that as we go along. So just so that you know that it's there. So we're going to put these words up, and what you need to do is see if you can work out what the word is. So here's the first one. So you can see it starts with the third line, second space, fourth line, second line, fourth space. So if you work out what those notes are, see if you can work out what the word is saying. They're all real words. None of these are made up words. So here's the second word. They're not related. It's not going to make a sentence. It is just a random word that we can write down using treble clef notation. So third space, second space, third line, second space, second line, first line. Just giving you a little bit of time to sort of go through your fingers, work out the letters. So here's the third word. There's only 4. So here's the third word. And we'll go through the answers in a minute. I'm not going to say anything about where anything is on this one. Let's see if you can do this one completely by yourself. And the last word. Okay, so let's go through the answers, shall we? Because you obviously want to know what these words are. So let's go back to the first one. And the first one, we've got third line, E, G, B, second space, F, A, fourth line, E, G, B, D, second line, E, G, and then the fourth space. And so the word is badge, B-A-D-G-E. Okay, second word. So if we do the same sort of process and you went through all, the notes on the lines and the notes in the spaces, you should have the word cabbage. And then our third word was edge. And our last word was cage. Okay. Now, as I say, you could, the worksheet on the live lesson has got all of this information, but if you wanted to have another little go at doing a bit more of this and sort of testing your knowledge and seeing if you can identify words and things like that, if you go onto the Theatre of Music website and look under resources, there's a whole worksheet that is just to do with treble clef. In fact, there's 2. There's 2 worksheets that are related to the treble clef notation. And so you could do some extra work on this if you wanted to. And it gives you all of the information that we're talking about, how to work it out, etc. Okay, so you've got the live lesson resource, but you've also got 2 other resources on the website to help you with all of this. Okay, so let's move on, because there are a couple of notes that you will need to know that don't appear on the 5 lines of the stave, because you can write music that is lower and you can write music that is higher. But how do you do that? So what we do is we draw extra little lines. We've got in front of us the note middle C. Middle C is very important. I always think middle C is a bit of a prima donna. Middle C has to have its own special line. And it's one of those notes that really, everybody uses middle C. It has the line going through the middle of it, and it's just below the 5 lines of the stave. So it's immediately, it's almost like you don't draw an entire line, because that would make 6 lines of the stave. That doesn't work. So it has a tiny little line that it sits on. So the line just comes either side of the note just to show where it is. And then just above that is the note D. And that's sort of hanging, like grim death. It's hanging off of the 5 lines of the stave. So we have the C and the D. And why they're so important is that in a lot of music, certainly that we're going to be looking at, you're going to need to know those 2 notes, but you need to be able to understand how it all works anyway. And music is alphabet. Let's just think about this for a second. We've been doing this E, G, B, D, and F, A, C, E. But if we just did our alphabet and we started at E on the bottom line, and the next letter is F, G, and then we start our alphabet again, A, B, C, D, E, F. It's just our alphabet. It's just the alphabet. So if we started on E and went backwards, our alphabet backwards, then the letter before E in the alphabet is D. And that's the one that goes in that space below the 5 lines. And the letter in the alphabet before D is C. And that's the one that it has its own special line. And so there's 2 ways of being able to remember middle C. You can remember it as this special note that sits on its own little line just below the 5 lines of the treble clef stave, or you can do your alphabet backwards from E, that bottom line, and count backwards, D in the space, and then C on its own special line, whichever works for you. Okay, there's no right or wrong in this, but middle C is very special. And it's not because it's the C nearest the middle of the keyboard. That's not, it's a good way of remembering it, but that's not why it's called middle C. And that we could have an entire lesson just on middle C. We're not going to do that. So what we're going to do is actually have a little think about, let's just make me disappear. There we go. We're going to have a little look at Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. Now, I played that at the beginning, and here it is written down using treble clef notation. Now, if you have a keyboard, you could have a go at learning how to play this yourself on the keyboard, but you can see that we've also got the words written down because it is a song, and every single one of you, wherever you are, you've got a musical instrument with you, and it's your voice. You have your very own unique instrument. Everybody's voice is different, and it is a musical instrument in its own right. So let's have a little look at this Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. So we can see that our very, very first note is the middle C that I've just been talking about. And maybe it's a good time as well to think about how we're sort of combining pitch and rhythm, because we looked at rhythm last week. We've got 4 beats in a bar because it's got a 4/4 time signature. We're counting in crotchets because the notes are coloured in with sticks. We learned that last week. So 1 beat notes because they're coloured in with sticks. And the first note is a C crotchet. And then we have another C crotchet. And then we move, we jump. And the next note is on the second line. It's still a crotchet, and it's a G. So we know that our first 4 notes are C, C, G, G. And then we go into the second space, A, and then G. And the G is a minim. You can see how to create this melody. We're combining the pitch, the treble clef notation, with the rhythm that we looked at last week, which was the crotchets and minims. Those are the only note lengths that we're using in this particular piece of music, crotchets and minims, 1 beat notes and 2 beat notes. So we're combining the 2. Let's just have a look. I'm not going to sing the words for Twinkle Twinkle. I'm going to play it and I'm going to say the letter names so that you can see how it works. So C, C, G, G, A, G, F, F, E, E, D, D, C. See what I mean? And then we have G, G, F, F, E, E, D, G, G, F, F, E, E, D, C, C, G, G, A, G, F, F, E, E, D, D, C. I've got to be honest, if we just sang letter names, it wouldn't be very interesting, would it? So let's have a little go together at singing through Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. You've got all the pitches there. You can see the shape of the music, And that's important too. Even if you're not 100% confident at reading the notes, you can see that there is a jump from the first twinkle to the second twinkle. There's quite a gap. Twinkle, twinkle. That's quite a jump higher. And then you can see the shape of the music goes up again. So you're looking at the note heads, you're looking at the blobs, basically. It steps up, little, and then comes down a note, star, and then comes down again. How I wonder what you are. Okay, so let's have a little go at singing it through together. We're going to be using this piece of music a lot over the next few weeks. So let's give it a go. Ready? Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Up above the world so high, like a diamond. Twinkle, twinkle, how Okay, so over the next couple of weeks, we're going to be using Twinkle Twinkle Little Star as the basis of quite a lot of what we do. We're going to be using it next week as part of our musical elements lesson, because we're going to take it to the next level. Okay, we're going to be looking at how we can add other musical elements to what we've already got, our pitch and our rhythm, to make the music even more interesting. So we're going to be looking at things like louds and quiets, how we play it, what the structure of the music is, all of those different elements that are combined and come together to make a more complete piece of music. So that's what we're going to be focusing on next week, musical elements. So if you have a keyboard, or you have access to a sort of keyboard, or if you haven't got a keyboard but you'd like to have a go at doing this and learning it on a keyboard, you can download onto your devices a virtual keyboard that you literally play like a keyboard on your tablet. That's for what we're doing at the moment. That's perfectly fine. You don't need anything more complicated than that. Okay. If you want to have a go at sort of extending your playing ability, have a go at playing Twinkle Twinkle. You know how the tune goes, so you know whether you'll be when you're listening to yourself play, you'll know whether you're getting it right or not. You'll be able to correct yourself. Use your treble clef notation. Use what you've learnt about how to read treble clef notation to help you to play the notes and read the notes, because that's the whole point of this, to give you the tools to be able to then go out and play even more pieces of music and develop your musical ability beyond what you might think you're capable of, because I'm sure you are capable of far more than you think. Okay, so what have we learnt today? We've learnt that we're combining rhythm and pitch to make a melody. We've recapped crotchet and minim notes. We've recapped 4 beats in a bar, 4/4. We've learnt that treble clef notation is when we have that funny squiggly symbol at the beginning. That's a treble clef, and we're using the 5 lines of the stave to help us to identify what notes are. And we can use every green bogey deserves flicking and face in the space using our hand to help us to identify what those notes are. We've learned that middle C is this special note that has its own special line to sit on, and that D, below the stave, sort of hanging on there, it's just in that space between the middle C and the first line of the stave. Okay, that's quite a lot that we've covered in 2 weeks. It really is. You've done incredibly well to sort of keep up and follow. Now, I'm having great fun doing this. I really am. I'm loving creating these live lessons for you and creating all the resources for the website as well. I mean, I'd be doing it all day, every day. In fact, it feels like I am at the moment. I'm constantly trying to do new stuff and create new things for you. But all that's only possible with some support, because this is a passion of mine. Music education is a passion of mine, and sharing the knowledge and sharing music with as many of you as possible. But I can only do that with a bit of support, because unfortunately I can't live on fresh air. So if you feel that you can subscribe, and it's not you must, it's not, there is an obligation, it's only if you feel that you can, then please go to the Ko-fi Theatre of Music tiers and subscribe. You can follow the QR code that's on the screen. And for £5 a month, that will mean that you will be sent a Theatre of Music magazine once a quarter, which will be full of fun facts and quizzes and activities and even more, really. And that will be sent out. The first one is due out in December. But equally, please follow on the Theatre of Music Facebook page, because every day in the week we have a daily weekday post celebrating famous musicians' birthdays, and there's a music trivia question every day where you can write your answer in the comments section. So today the question is, who wrote the Hallelujah chorus, for example? And you can go onto the Facebook page and you can put your answer in the comments section underneath that trivia question. So if you go to the Facebook page, you can also leave your comments under this live lesson event that's been listed for today. What we really want to do is, on Facebook, we want to get to 100 followers on Facebook so that we can add a live lesson onto there as well for each week. That would be absolutely fantastic. So I look forward to seeing you all next week. So next week's lesson is all about exciting elements and what these exciting elements are. And it's all going to be to do with tempo and dynamics and all of that sort of stuff. So I look forward to seeing you next week, and bye for now.